Powered by Red Media in partnership with TSN, this is season 6 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, and it is presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. New to their amazing invitation series is the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high-proof, a full-bodied whiskey as the aromas of caramel, toffee, spicy, vanilla, rich oak with a butterscotch finish that is incredibly smooth. So invite your senses, Ray, to an elevated Canadian whiskey experience with Canadian Club, which, by the way, I mean, we've had the sample taste of the high proof. It will be on the shelf, so everybody can stop listening to us, tell them how great it is. It'll be on the shelf coming up here in days ahead in October. So great news, great news. How are you?
It is. I'm good. I kind of feel like this is the season for it too.
Yeah, like just cooling off. It's the fall.
Yes,
Leaves are just going to drop.
This is it for me. This is the time when that I find myself like pulled to that cabinet.
Now, do you put on your smoking jacket with the pipe or a big cigar and like put it in like a snifter or something?
No,
I understand it's not a glass of wine, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I don't. My Landon came over the other day and he's like, "Dad, I got to tell you, you guys got a great house, but your glass game sucks."
Yeah.
So apparently he's like, look, he goes, all of it. I know you've had kids for 35 years, but like the glass game just sucks. All of it. So he's pressuring for a little bit of a shopping trip.
Although you probably do this as well. When I partake and pour myself a nice glass of CC, whatever the vintage is, right? I do go. You remember Canadian Club sent us those beautiful whiskey glasses?
Those are the only glasses I have.
It's automatic.
Then I got a mishmash of stuff from Costco or something or other. I don't know.
And I don't know about you. I don't use the ice from the dispenser in the fridge. I've got a special,
do you
mold?
Like the cube mold? Yeah.
Either the big cubes or the big ball of ice. Yeah, very special. Nobody can touch the ice container, by the way. Hands off the ice.
You're a bad sharer.
Leave my glasses alone. Yeah.
Bad sharer of that. Yeah.
Everything good? How was your week?
It was good. Played golf a couple times. Did a little prep work. Played really well too, which is the signal that it's the end of the season. Yeah. And like you're just like, oh, I think I'm on a good run here. Oh yeah, here comes game one, and that'll wrap up the golf season. But had a really good week, and now just looking forward to getting started. I've, like everybody else, this last few days is enough of the preseason for us that are watching it, for fans that are watching it, and for the players that just want to get going here.
Yeah. And that's a perfect segue into the Tim Hortons headlines. Look, there's a delicious new deal at Tim's right now. Get a $3 classic breakfast sandwich with a purchase of any size hot or cold coffee. It's a pairing that you simply cannot ignore. I do it every time I'm driving by Timmy's. Zip in there, grab the coffee, grab the breakfast sandwich. Head to your local Tim Hortons today. And the segue from preseason, that's too long, is shenanigans, Ray. We've got more shenanigans in the preseason involving Arbor Jacki in the league crosshairs one more time. So he's ejected Tuesday for roughing, an interference major, a game misconduct that goes along with that. The high hit on Ottawa's Tim Stützle. Now, back-to-back preseason games where Arbor Jacki started and did not finish. He gets tossed back-to-back. Now, everybody's probably seen the video of the Montreal-Ottawa game. So Arbor cuts across, and he gets his elbow, his shoulder up high, but hits Tim Stützle's glove into Tim Stützle's stick, which goes into Tim Stützle's face, cuts him, right? So Department of Player Safety, specifically George Parros, saw nothing wrong with this from a supplemental discipline perspective, even though this was on the heels of Jacki being put on record with that maximum allowed fine. Is it semantics that he got away with the fact that he hit glove, not direct head contact, or is that a play that you think that NHL general managers are going to have to clean up to give the Department of Player Safety more leverage to potentially suspend for that hit?
I mean, the visual of the hit is it's a bad hit.
Yeah.
When you look at the replay and you see the angle that shows it's Stützle's stick that actually hits himself, you can see where the escape hatch is to suspension. However, I'll give you an example. When Brian Burke was head of the Department of Player Safety, I was playing in a game, and back then there were no cameras. There were just like whatever the game feed was. And I missed a breakaway, and I turned in the corner, and this guy came to hit me. I forget who it was. And as he got there, I was pissed off about the breakaway, and I cross-checked him as he came. I think he was coming to hit me, but in any case, I cross-checked him, and I got him pretty high. And Berkey called and said, I can't see it, so I can't suspend you, but I know what you did, and if you do it again, I'm going to whack you. And so the reason I tell that is because I think that's part of Department of Player Safety's job is to get in touch with Jack. I mean, they clearly got his number. They just took money from him last week and say, you got lucky here, but that hit cannot be. That hit is a suspendable hit if it doesn't hit Stützle's glove. So instead of waiting for the problem to happen, let's be a little proactive. And really, Montreal should be doing the same thing with him. They want him to be aggressive and tough and mean and feared. But if you're always up on the edge, you never get any leeway. So I thought at the very least there should have been a conversation. We don't know if there was or wasn't. If he would have been fined for it, I wouldn't have had a problem with that either. But to me, it's more preventative medicine than anything that happens. There is the old suspension or non-suspension of, a guy gets hit in the head and he doesn't get injured and there's no suspension. But if he got injured, there's a 6-game suspension or a 4-game. Mm-hmm. I don't think the injury should necessarily be the be-all, end-all of whether there's suspension or not.
Yeah. And if it is, I mean, now you can have the conversation about, okay, well, what if Arbor Xhekaj had actually hurt Cedric Paré of the Toronto Maple Leafs when he jumped him?
Correct.
Right? Now we're having a different conversation. And even though I'm quick to dismiss the similarity to, Bertuzzi on Steve Moore years ago, if Paré is hurt based on that pummeling, then the Department of Player Safety probably has no choice but to suspend. And maybe could have avoided the Toronto-Ottawa scenario if they had suspended Xhekaj in the first place for a game or two and delivered that message. No, it's all what if.
Yeah, but it is what if, except, so does that mean a player can maraud around the ice and grab somebody and pummel them?
Yeah.
Why not? Well, I mean, apparently you can. Yeah. And so I think that you have to be careful of viewing each play just as an individual thing. And
agreed.
In this week, I think that's what happened.
Yeah. So it is the preseason, and with all due respect, Arbor Xhekaj, he's trying to solidify a job here, right?
Sure.
So I single him out, but let's fast forward now. People are looking at the Atlantic Division and going, "Ooh, geez, this is going to be so much fun to watch all of this bad blood spill over in the Battle of Toronto and Montreal, or Ottawa and Montreal." I've had both sides in Toronto and Montreal say, buckle up for October 9th. So that's game one of the regular season between those two teams, the Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, I guess, but number one, is Xhekaj going to be in the lineup? Is Ryan Reeves going to be in the lineup for the Toronto Maple Leafs? The one thing that we know, Ray, it's not preseason hockey. That win matters to both those clubs, right?
I can guarantee you they'll both be in warm-up. And whether they're in or out, we'll see. But and the reason I say that is each team will be looking at the other to try and figure out what their lineup might be.
Right.
It's funny. There's been such a push or awareness of what little guys can bring to the game, and it's incredible skill and agility, and we've seen a prevalence of smaller players that weren't there years ago. And then, so they've there's more and more of them. And now it seems like, it's turning the corner again.
Yeah.
Look at So Charlie McAvoy, for example, is Boston's smallest defenseman. He's 6'1", 205. It's the smallest guy. And so the teams that go deep in the playoffs, it seems like you can have one smaller D and then everybody else has to be big. Small forwards don't win puck battles. You just don't get the puck back. So it seems like this trend is that you're going back to bigger players. The difference is the bigger players can skate. They are agile. Like it's not like you got a battleship out there. You've got somebody that is, that is large, 6'2", can fly, and is able to make plays with the puck, like good plays. Yeah. So it's not getting easier to be a smaller guy, even with the more open approach to the game.
Right. And somebody I was having a conversation with inside hockey operations made the point, to emphasize what you're saying. Yeah, players are getting bigger, especially on defense. But he contends maybe they're getting meaner. And I don't know if I see that. Bigger for sure, meaner. I mean, we're not going back to the 70s, even the 80s up to the 90s when guys were trying to murder each other out there, in the preseason. I mean, bigger makes sense because you're just trying to take up more space, right? In the defensive zone.
I don't see it as meaner, Dregs. I really don't. Yeah. What I do see is that, and there's been a little bit of chat about how to get to 84 games, and that would be certainly to limit exhibition games. But there's too many people that get hurt in the preseason, and one of the reasons is because they're not mentally locked into the game. You're just not prepared. Like in that Toronto-Montreal game. Was it Montreal? Yeah, well, it was Montreal. I'm trying to think if it was Toronto. It was Ottawa. Somebody thumped Doc when he came across the blue line on an entryway into the
Ridley Gregg. Yeah.
Well, that hit happened because Doc wasn't aware he was there. It was a totally fine hit. And that's
not
the
according
difference
to Montreal.
Well, he hit him right in the chest. I mean, like, I don't know what
else. They thought it
was
worse, and I'm not laughing at the Montreal Canadiens, but in fairness, they felt like that Ridley Gregg hit was worse than Jack-Eye on Tim Stützle. Because, and in fair, like Ridley Gregg owned it though, right? After the game, he said, it wasn't a good hit. It wasn't a good, but
so I'm out to lunch. Explain to me why it wasn't a good hit. Was it late?
Well, like the puck was gone, but and the belief was that he committed to the hit after Doc had dispensed the puck, not in.
So I'm gonna talk about that then. If he committed to the hit after Doc moved the puck, do you know what we're talking about here?
Yeah,
is that a half a second?
Yeah,
so there's going to be lines all over the place. I felt watching the game, I thought the hit was fine. He hit him right in the chest, but in my mind, Doc didn't even acknowledge that there was a potential danger there.
Yeah.
And part of it is that you're just playing in the preseason. Everybody, you're not dialed in. And it's not to single out Kirby Doc. It happens all the time. Ekholm got hit by Jordan Eberle last night, and he was sour and went after Eberle. But I think it's because you're just not quite as sharp. So in my mind, you play a couple of games, you use most of your NHL roster because there's very few guys that are battling for a job.
Yeah.
There are very few anymore.
So I'm not presenting this as information. It's gossip. That's what it is. You might know the answer to this. It's gossip. It's just pure funny gossip to me anyway. So if you're in Montreal as a visiting team, do you get hot dogs delivered like post-game or something like that? Have you ever heard of this?
I don't know if the guys still do. Well, if we did.
You did? Right.
Oh, and that was show? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, boxes of them. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I know that's what the experience is for media in the press box. I just didn't know that luxury is extended to the
I don't know if the guys still do it. We used to do it, Dregs. We'd walk out after a morning skate and they would be starting to cook the hot dogs, and there'd be like 6 of our guys in line grabbing a dog on the way out.
Okay, so here's why I tell this story, and I relay the gossip is that the Canadians were so annoyed with the Maple Leafs, allegedly, according to like third-party sourcing here, that they withheld the hot dogs
Them's fighting words right there.
The Leafs didn't get hot dogs, so how pissed off are they? So out of all of that, all of the mayhem, it's the hot dog controversy that makes me chuckle the most.
Well, I gotta say, there's not a hot dog like a Bell Center hot dog. The Shan Show with what do you put on yours? I go ketchup and mustard.
Yeah, me too. And I'm good with caramelized onions, although that's getting a little fancy. I'll put cheese on it too if there's grated cheese.
No, but you're in the Bell Center. You get ketchup,
I know, you don't have
mustard, or ketchup and mustard, and the toasted bun, and that's it. And
our American audience, by the way, is
I've had 100 of those. I guarantee I have. Yeah.
And I'm not. I'm both. Like, again, the American audience is probably saying you don't put ketchup on a hot dog. It's mustard. That's all that goes on a hot dog. But anyway,
that's a tragic mistake. It's a miss.
Is a hot dog a sandwich? Let's start that.
Well, it could be in Montreal because the bun looks like it is bread.
It is.
It could be
split nice. It's not like a hot dog bun. It's like a piece of bread split. It's very nice.
You know what I like doing when the hot dog buns are frozen and I take them out of the freezer and I cut them? Man, it looks like a machete went through there. The kids are like, "Dad, what is this?" I'm like, "Yeah."
What happened to that hot dog bun? Let's shift gears here and look at the New Jersey Devils. Buffalo Sabres will open up the Global Series on Friday in Czechia. Okay, so when you assess what the expectation should be for the New Jersey Devils, you see, yes, they've got a proven goaltender coming in now in Markstrom, new coach in Sheldon Keefe. They've adjusted their defense with Brett Pesce, Brendan Dillon. Dougie Hamilton's healthy. He's returning. So what do you expect from the New Jersey Devils this year? More of the same in trying to do what they've done in recent years, and that's almost outgunned their opposition, or a more complete game based on maybe a different style of coaching, but more importantly, again, a proven netminder and a defense that's been upgraded?
Oh, I think Jersey's a playoff team. I think Markstrom is every bit as important in New Jersey as Linus Ullmark is in Ottawa. I think those are two goalies that really can hold their team's fortunes in their hands. They're major upgrades on what both of those teams had last year. You mentioned Pesce and Dillon on the blue line. Stefan Nason is there. They've gotten bigger, and I think that was paramount. You add Dougie Hamilton's back, and while he's not the most physical guy, man, he fits in Jersey and fits with those players. I think this is it's not a run and gun team anymore. You're going to have a little tug of war, I think, with some of the guys because they like to play that way, but they also don't like to lose all the time either, which is what they've done. They made the playoffs a couple years ago, lost the Rangers.
Yeah.
But this is a playoff team for me. I mean, they don't have Luke Hughes probably for the first few weeks of the season. And another key, I guess, is Jack's health, Jack Hughes' health. He's not finished a season. And, if he's playing 55 or 60 games, that's a big loss for them. They need a healthy Jack Hughes.
So as we're recording this episode of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, Raymond, the Department of Player Safety has just tweeted out a pretty significant So Tampa Bay's Connor Geekie has a hearing today for violating Rule 70.2, which is leaving the player's bench on a legal change for the purpose of starting an altercation.
Do you know what the biggest problem is for Mr. Geekie?
Yeah.
I read a quote last night. So Tampa was playing and Hedman got thumped in the middle of the ice. You never see Hedman get hit like this. I don't recall it. And so Geekie was on the bench and he said, I'm trying to think of who the other winger was. He said to him, "I'll go on this shift."
Interesting.
It might have, who did they get? It might have been Brandon Hagel. It might have been Hagel. And it was Hagel's quote. And he said, Geek said he was going to go on the shift and good for him. And so if the wording is that he left on a legal change for the purpose of starting a fight, the breadcrumbs don't go very far, and that might look like nothing. That's important though, because there was a time not very long ago, guys would just make a change at the bench, and some monster would come off the bench and pummel somebody. I mean, that was pretty regular.
Right. And just to be clear here again, the wording of the tweet from the Department of Player Safety is important here, right? Because it is a legal line change. Yep. So it's not an automatic suspension. But really,
it wasn't a stoppage. It wasn't a stoppage in play. It was in the play.
Yeah. And and the reason that it violates the rule is it's almost like you have to pretend like you're playing the puck. Otherwise, it's a problem. And in this case, he went out there with a purpose. I think it was Josh Davies. Was that the guy who threw the hit?
Yeah, you're right.
He's a young guy. Yeah.
Man, Department of Player Safety, nothing but fun times with them, eh? It's always a giggle. Like every time they turn around, there's something else landed on their desk.
Yeah. Well, they've had a couple of these over the years, but they don't happen very often. So anyway, we'll see how it plays out. So breaking news on the Ray and Dregs hockey podcast here that we respond to on the fly. Why don't we wrap up the Tim Hortons headlines, Ray, with a milestone watch? And why not? I mean, the regular season is upon us, ready to turn the corner. We talked about Ovi, I think, in episode 1, maybe episode 2, and the 42-goal target to catch Wayne. So let's look at a couple of other players. Undoubtedly, I'm going to get faced with this on an upcoming quiz. Will Austin Matthews score 70 goals? One more than he got last year. Think he hit 70 this year?
No.
It's a big number.
Just because I think that's incredible to think that you could get there. Yet, how many games did he miss last year?
Yeah.
Right? He missed a few.
He did, yeah.
Health, and it just feels like the Leafs are entering a spot of a little bit less offense in the hope of a better team result.
Right.
So I'm going to say no to 70.
Okay, what do the numbers look like for Connor McDavid? I mean, he's chasing some stuff. Crosby is chasing some stuff. I mean, that's just what you get when you're a prolific, producer like those men are. 100 assists last year for Connor McDavid, so 130 plus points. Can he surpass that number? Probably.
So at a point and a half a game's 120.
Yeah.
Thereabouts, and I just kind of think that's where he's going to be anyway, and so whatever goes past that, you're talking like 13 points past that, like he can do that. I don't see any reason why their power play wouldn't be as good, as it was last year, and you rack up all kinds of points on the power play, and I think plus 120 points for sure is my number for him.
Beautiful. All right, buddy. Those are your headlines. Thank you to Tim Hortons.
A new deal is at Tim's. $3 for a classic breakfast sandwich when you buy any size hot or iced coffee. You heard that right. Just $3 for a classic breakfast sandwich with Canada's favorite coffee. A $3 deal you won't want to miss.
It's time for Tim's.
All right, Ray. It's time for Ask Ray and Dregs Anything. You can send us your questions.
Do we have a guest host?
And, I think we do.
No, I mean a new one?
No. You're talking about Ryan Rashog, of course, right?
Yeah, I just thought we had a new
Fire me
host.
after one episode? You can fire me like that, Ray? One episode.
I mean,
well, it's high standard here.
Fans would recognize Ryan, of course, as the new host of Ask Ray and Dregs Anything, the host and prodder of Got Your Back, of course. And he does work for TSN. He's the Cub reporter, the bureau whatever guy in Edmonton, right, for TSN. So let's just make that
the business
clear.
card says bureau chief, I believe is what the business card says. I am the
in a
TSN
bureau of how
presence
many
here.
I like
in a bureau of me and Dave Parker.
Okay, all right. Here he is.
I like
Ryan
Cub
Rochelle.
Reporter, Dregs. I like that.
Yeah.
Reporter. I like that.
Yeah. I don't know how many years I got to put in to lose the title Cub Reporter. But guys, listen, me joining this segment hit huge on social media, kind of a big wave. And as we get to Ask Ray and Dregs, we go to Paul Marcus here, who says, you guys do such an awesome job and add great entertainment value to the season. Adding Dom to the Ask Ray and Dregs segment is awesome. For real. He says Dom, which I think is a behind-the-scenes fellow on the other podcast, especially when he makes Ray sit quiet. Yeah, there you go. So, thanks for that, Paul Marcus.
Hey,
what's that, Dregs?
It's okay. Well, I was just going to say, Dom, you do a hell of a job.
Yeah, thanks. That's my new handle for the rest of the year now. He does throw this question in. What was one of the most irritating experiences you had with a teammate, whether it was on or off the ice, Ray?
Okay, it wasn't so much irritating, but it escalated into a place where it was potentially going to run into a real problem. Benoit Hogue and I were line mates with the Islanders, one of my favorite teammates. And so I think he cut my skate laces before practice. So I cut his sticks before the next practice. Then he did something else. And then I did something else. And then we had a road trip. We came back, landed, got in our cars, and drove back home. So it's raining. And so I turned my wipers on. And like it's not, I don't know, the window's not really clear. And so I got the wipers going faster. I got the frost on. It's not getting better. I'm driving literally. It's like 1:30 in the morning. I've got my head partway out the window because I can't see. So I meander my way home. And as I get out of the car, I'm like, man, I'm going to have to take this car in to get it looked at or something. As I get out of the car, close the door, I smell, that smell of Vicks Vapor Rub?
Oh, no.
I'm like, what am I smelling? He'd smeared it over the windshield. So the wipers were just smearing Vicks back and forth.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous.
So now I am sour. So I go to him the next day. I'm like, Hoagie, I will find a fish and I will put it in your car.
Yeah.
And you won't find it, and it'll make that car stink forever. And he goes, and this is where it worried me. He goes, you do that, I'll blow up your house.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was like, geez, I'm
that escalated quickly.
Here. So that lasted, but that wasn't like in 2 days. That lasted about 10 days. And so each day it was getting a little bit more snippy. And I was like, yeah, he probably wins here. The Vaseline or the Vicks on the window was brilliant. It's a brilliant
Dregsy, you ever had a coworker or a teammate annoy you to the point where you chased him down a street in Raleigh and threw him into a bush?
Yeah. So Ryan Rishaug put hands on my wallet. Okay, stupidly, I left the wallet
overreacted.
on the table as I excused myself to go to the washroom. Came back, didn't even really notice anything had changed. But then all of a sudden, you go to pay the bill and whatnot, and my cards and ID are everywhere, like not in the slots, the pouches that they're supposed to be. So I knew automatically. And you know what? Just your wallet is a very personal thing. And maybe it had been a long trip, but I had had enough of Ryan Rishaug by that point. So, yeah, as we're walking back, he's laughing, thinks this is just hilarious. And
it was.
I threw him in a bush.
Yeah, he literally chased me down the street, like started charging full speed at me. So my instinct was to run. Somehow he caught me and threw me into a hedge.
So there you go.
Somehow he caught you. That should be your first clue to
I know.
Get moving, man.
That made you more mad than the time. There was one day, Ray, we were sitting next to each other at a dinner, and I kept just grabbing salt shakers off the table, and Dregs had draped his TSN jacket over the back of his chair, and I was emptying salt shakers into his pocket. I grabbed like all 4 of them from the table and just emptied them all. but he wasn't noticing, and I got bored, and I had a few glasses of wine, so I thought it'd be a good idea to up the ante a little. So I emptied half a glass of water into one of them too.
Like just
you deserved a beating for that.
Like
That's
just
brutal.
nonsense. This is what I had to deal with.
Yeah.
Childishness.
All right, and you're not rid of me yet. So we're going to do a quick little bit of this or that. We're going to call it, and then we're going to get out of here. So this or that. You guys, I'm going to give you a couple of choices. You take your pick. Ray, we'll start with you. Connor McDavid might play 5 exhibition games. Looks like he's going to after a short summer. That is his choice. Too many, or the player knows best?
Player knows what he needs. 5, I would not be interested in. So however I say this or that, I'll take the that of less. But the player, if he thinks he needs 5, he needs 5.
I'm all for it too, man. I mean, there's ongoing dialogue of how the preseason is going to be changed. Does it need to be changed? And there's always been this unwritten rule, right? That vets don't have to play on the road. they just play at home and entertain the home crowd, which I understand from a business standpoint, but Connor McDavid wants to play 5 games, and somebody on the road is going to watch a pretty good hockey player.
What has a chance to click faster, Ray? Stamkos and Marchessault. A couple of goals last night for Marchessault, one of them from Stamkos. Or Gensel and Kucherov. Ray, which will be the better fit faster?
That's good. Jeez, who helped you with that one?
Good.
I know.
That's good. That's good.
Hey, see? Hey?
I'm gonna say Kucherov, Gensel by a hair. Kucherov's such a great passer that I think Gensel's going to get some freebies around the front of the net. But I am looking forward to watching a little bit of Nashville power play, a cross seam pass from Marchessault right across, to Stamkos, but Forsberg might be in the way and he shoots it too. That's going to be pretty interesting to watch.
Yeah, that's tough to argue with. I like Gensel and Kucherov, and maybe it speaks to the success that Sidney Crosby had with. Sid has always liked playing with predictable players, and Gensel's got that level of talent. So I think that combo of Kucherov and Gensel is going to be special to watch.
Cam Neely's comment in the media. I got 64 million reasons. We all heard that one. Ray, fair gamesmanship during a tough negotiation or unnecessarily out of bounds?
I'll pick that. I think it was out of bounds, only because I understand trying to get to a leverage point and trying to push this deal along. If that number was offered, which how would we know? He said it was. 13 minutes later, Louis Gross, the agent, said that's the first time I've ever heard that number. Yeah. I think the next communication would be, okay, we'll take it. But I thought it was, it's creating a bristle pad where you don't have to. Although I get it. The team's pissed. They thought they'd have this done by now. I'm sure Swayman thought he'd have this done by now too. And but I'm not a fan of that. It doesn't make it. I don't think it makes it easier. Put it that way.
No, it's offside based on the standard that had been applied by both the Boston Bruins and Louis Gross. Like they weren't commenting on numbers. The best you get out of both sides is we're still grinding, right? Like that's the verbiage that had been used to that point. I guess then from a media perspective, I'm like, okay, this is getting juicy now. The only thing that would have made it better would have been if Alan Walsh had represented Jeremy Swayman after Cam Neely said that, because there's zero chance Walsh would have issued a similar statement. He'd have come out swinging. So, we'll see how it plays out. But Boston needs Jeremy Swayman back into the mix.
All right, let's turn up the temperature a little bit here. Your wife is watching television on the couch in your favorite room to watch TV. She's sort of on her phone, but also has on one of those shows you got no interest in watching. Again, this is your favorite room, and you want to watch TV. Do you grab the remote and then ask, are you watching this? Do you let it be and leave the room to find a different TV? Or do you just flat out change the channel and be prepared for the "I didn't think you were watching" argument? Dregs?
Happens every day at 4:00 Eastern, Monday through Friday. And it's when Holly watches The Young and the Restless.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah. Now, the fortunate thing is, not bragging, it's just the reality. And you know, Mason still lives here. We've got projection TV downstairs, which is like 120 inches. So I can slide down there. During COVID, when we renovated this house, I completely man caved my 3-car garage. So I've got a big screen hanging in there. TVs everywhere. So, you know what? Happy wife, happy life. I just let her do whatever she does from 4 to 5 p.m. with Young and the Restless, and I go somewhere else.
you see, were you Monty Python fans?
Yeah, yeah.
So they're in Holy Grail. They go, brave, brave Sir Robin. He bravely turned his tail and ran. It's a song. And, so I walk in there and I'm like, look at this. Are you really watching this? And I try to nudge Cammy to say, no, not really. But if I can see there's no response or no reaction, I just walk down the hallway to another room and
So hold on.
Tail between legs.
Is wrestling the remote away from Cammy similar to trying to get it away from Pat Verbeek back in that day?
No, I got a better chance here. I'll tell you.
Right, back to
so
hockey.
You used your wife though. Hang on, Ryan.
Yep.
You used your wife though. You know what really grinds me is when I come in and Reese, who's 14, he's a hilarious kid and he likes watching TV while he's doing other things, but he'll have on a wrestling pay-per-view. Do you know how long those things last?
Yeah,
they're like 3
9
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, when is this over? He's like, it's in the 3rd match. And I'm like, oh. So can't very well kick him off. So I go down the hall again.
All right, back to hockey. We'll keep her moving. Wyatt Johnston, 32 goals last season, can become the second player in franchise history to score 30 twice before the age of 22. Bellows did it 3 times, by the way. I'm going to set the over-under at 40 for Wyatt Johnston this year. A kick up. You taking the over? You taking the under on 40 for Johnston this year? Ray?
Under. Because just like we said about Matthews, it feels like a big number for him. I think he's an unreal player. I think he is going to push for Canada's roster for sure. Yeah, in the 4 Nations and the Olympics. He's versatile. He can play different positions. He's super smart. Dallas drafted him. He had played 7 games in his draft year because of COVID. But they liked him so much from the previous year that they took him, I think, in the 20s, and they got a star. I'm going to pick under 40, but I just love him as a player.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going under 40 as well. He is a nifty kid too, right? But I feel like he's been in the National Hockey League long enough now that there's no surprises with Wyatt Johnston. Like, teams are building their defense and their structure and how to beat the Dallas Stars, in part around the talents of this kid. So maybe 35 if he stays healthy. 40 is a big number.
Went from 24 to 32 the next year.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right, finally, the Global Series getting underway. Devils and Sabres in Prague. If you ran a team and the league came to you and said, we want to start a couple of teams overseas, and we would like your team to be one of the ones that goes, you were able to say no. No one would ever hear about it. Ray, good experience for the group. Send them off, or no thanks, move along.
Oh, I'd go for sure. I think it would be awesome. I think the players would love it. I guess my next question would be, what's my schedule look like when I come back?
Yeah.
And, you know, I that would be the only caveat to me, because everything's organized when you go there. It's not like the trainers are lugging gear all over the place. You ship everything there. It's all organized. They set up in one place. Absolutely, I would want to go.
I might say yes as a general manager or as a coach. As an owner, I would say no. And teams do say no. You think the Toronto Maple Leafs or the New York Rangers have their hand up to say, yeah, I want to. No, because you're talking about potentially millions of dollars in lost home gate revenue in the preseason. So, this is something I didn't know. Teams are already setting their preseason schedules for next year right now.
Yeah.
Right. So, I've heard rumblings that, teams were sour about playing the New Jersey Devils here in North America because the real New Jersey Devils are in Prague. So you're getting just this, piecemeal American League or less than rosters. So if I were a bigger market and I were the owner, I'd say no, thanks.
They play that second game on Saturday, 4 days off, Ray, and then they play 5 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, in 10 days. 5 games in 10 days after 4 days off when they get back.
Yeah, that I might ask for a little bit of a lighter load coming back than that.
All right. I have been Dom, and this has been Ask Ray and Dregs Anything.
All right, and there he goes, our Cub reporter, the bureau chief, Ryan Rishaug. Good to have him.
Another 30 years, he's going to have Cub removed from his business card.
Yeah,
I don't know this reporter.
We seem to be kind of all over the place. What did he call that? This or that, or what?
But given the input we had on that, I think we have to accept it, which was none because he didn't ask and we didn't offer. I don't know. Did you offer anything?
Not a bit. And you're right. We can't complain about it because it does take some of the workload off for sure.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
I think he's doing fine. We'll bring him back next week. We'll call him something else next week.
What's the weekend looking like for you? Just kind of getting in your final rest and relaxation?
Yeah, I'm going to work this weekend. I got a lot of prep to do. I've got a super busy week next week, and we're going to get. I'm going to get going like Tuesday and Wednesday, and I got a lot to do. So I got to be. I got to get some prep in. So that'll be it here. And then it's season, right? It's time to go. How about you?
I've got one more preseason game, Leafs game on Saturday. Gonna catch up with Brad Treliving, the Toronto Maple Leafs on Friday. Sunday, I think, will be the day of just football and maybe recharge a little bit. And then Monday, we've got a preview show, and off we go into the regular season. So a little bit of everything for me this weekend.
It's time to get going.
It is. All right, buddy. Thanks for a good week.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll enjoy your weekend, I hope, and we'll talk to you next week.
You bet. And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs and make this podcast possible. Our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey, and our good friends at Tim Hortons. And thanks to you, everybody. Stay safe.